JJ and Alex are deep in Utah strategy and reaction. What the Utes did right and what they need to do better. JJ and Alex, Monday from 3 to 6 on the KSL Sports Zone.
Welcome back, everybody. Final segment on 1st and 12, a rivalry week, pre-rivalry week edition of 1st and 12. I say rivalry week, of course, here in the state of Utah. We talk a lot about the Big 12 on this program because that's what this program's theme is. But, of course, with our two local teams, BYU and Utah, both in the Big 12 and both facing off against one another as conference mates for the first time in, Mitch, this would be something you'd remember. When was the last time they actually played against one another when they were members of the same conference, BYU and Utah?
2010. It was 17-16. BYU was up 16-zip, and then Utah reeled off 17 unanswered and blocked a Mitch Payne field goal, and Utah had the first of a 9-game win streak.
The 9-game win streak, by the way, both teams have had 9-game win streaks in this series. Nobody's ever won more than 9 in a row. Both teams have done it. And but you've got yourself quite a bit of fun to be had this week. I do think that this rivalry has taken on a totally new field to it now that they're in the conference together, now that Kalani and Kyle, two guys who actually like each other, are at the helm, and both have ties to both schools. Like, that's the other thing. Connor Pay, we just heard from, and he talked about, I got a bunch of friends up there, and I want to kick those guys' butts. He's like, I want to kick my friend, the ones I know the most up there, I want to kick their butts the most. So that's where you want this rivalry game, and obviously that's a lot of fun for us to be able to jump into. But the Big 12 has a lot more this week that's on the line. It's not just in BYU and Utah. Now the conference race hits kind of that final stretch. And you're not going to see as many bye weeks the rest of the way out here. You're going to see a lot of teams trying to figure out how to find their way to Arlington. So let's jump in here and let's get an idea of what we have schedule-wise for the Big 12 this weekend, Mitch.
Yeah, Iowa State goes on the road. They play Kansas. A lot of these games still got the 6-day flex, so we'll find out a little bit later today the kick times. But the Cyclones go on the road to a Kansas team that's playing a little bit better, but still a far cry from what we expected in the preseason. And then Colorado at Texas Tech. Colorado is a team that, has played a weak Big 12 conference schedule, similar to BYU. Pretty much all losing records, the teams they faced in the Big 12. They've capitalized, though, and now they take on a Texas Tech team that passing defense is not their strength. They cannot stop anyone through the air, and that's got to be good news for Shadur Sanders.
Yeah, I don't know about Colorado. Like, I don't know what to think about them, and I don't want to think that I don't know. Coach Prime, you and I joke a lot. We try to get that guy in the program as much as we can. Any soundbite we can get from Coach Prime, we'll take it. But the reality is that you can't deny that he's definitely turned things around for that program, and
no doubt.
I don't love admitting it because I don't love the way that they've done things there, but I have to give credit where credit's due. The future head coach of the Dallas Cowboys, Prime, is doing a phenomenal job. So
he really is, though. I mean, to take a Colorado program that was left for dead at one win and to get them to this spot, I mean, you knew that his arrival would instantly bring national attention, but they're pretty good this year. I mean, there's still some questions in the trench. I think that's kind of the thought for a lot of people is what would they do if, they play maybe an Iowa State or a BYU, but they've taken care of business, and they have a win over a Baylor team that was, trending up now as of late in the Big 12. So Colorado at Texas Tech will be one to watch. UCF goes on the road at Arizona State. UCF's had, a lot of changes. They just had their space game yesterday. Now they take on the Arizona State Sun Devils. West Virginia at Cincinnati. That's kind of a force-fed rivalry, but I don't think either fan base really wants to call it that.
But I will say that West Virginia is just one of these teams that I'm waiting for them to really take off. They've just had such a difficult schedule this year, and I think that they've people sort of dismiss them because they have those 4 losses against 4 teams that are almost undefeated. Most of them were undefeated throughout most of the year here, so it's kind of crazy. Oklahoma State looking for their first conference win, going to Fort Worth to take on TCU. That one's going to be an interesting one there in Fort Worth. TCU, I mean, I can't hate on Sonny Dykes that much. He's kind of turned some things around a little bit this year, and I'm glad that they figured a couple things out because I like Sonny Dykes in Fort Worth, man.
Me too, and I think that he's a good fit there, and they got a. They got the chance to be one of the pleasant storylines in the Big 12 down the home stretch. But it's an interesting week of Big 12 play, and you brought up West Virginia and their schedule. It's going to be the first game back for their new defense coordinator. Neil Brown kind of shuffled up the deck with their coordinator situation. So we'll see if that pays off for them to finish strong, because it always seems like that Mountaineer fan base wants to fire Neil Brown. If he can finish strong, I think that could bode well. And I think it's, we're getting to that point, Alex, where it's getting the hot seat season, but I kind of wonder if we're going to get to a point where, these schools are going to back off, firing coaches because of revenue sharing on the horizon. They're a little bit worried about paying out this $22 million a year.
Yeah, we had this discussion this week because JJ and I were talking about Lincoln Riley, and he goes, hey, dude, how long until they fire him? I go, here's the thing, though. The buyout, I looked it up. Yeah. It's $90 million for Lincoln Riley. And I thought even USC, like USC's not Georgia, USC's not Texas A&M, USC's not Florida, where they're just going to be like, hey, let's look at one of our rich donors, which they, of course, have. But at the same time, they're like, look, we're a private institution. You made your bed here a little bit. We're going to let this thing get whittled down. And yeah, you're right. Like schools are looking around and they're going, hey, I don't think we can just on a whim fire a guy and have to end up paying him out for the next couple of years. Like I look at Kansas, you look at Lance Leipold, and like he's just going to have to fire some assistants. That's what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Some of these coaches, they save their own jobs and their own butts by letting a coordinator go, and that kind of saves them a couple more extra years there. But yeah, I don't think schools are very prone to just being like, oh, you're gone after 2 or 3 years on your, $50 million, and we're going to have to pay you 35 of it, and you coach like crap. Like, it's such a weird concept. I'd love to get into that business, but that's just what it is.
But the highlight game is definitely going to be BYU and Utah, 8:15 kick. It'll be on ESPN. We'll have coverage throughout the day on the KSL Sports Zone and KSL News Radio. And it's going to be just a busy day from us, from really morning to the early hours of the next morning. We are going to be holding it down. Then we'll be back next Sunday here with First and 12, giving you a recap of BYU and Utah and all of the Big 12 conference action in this league that just continues to produce great storylines. And First and 12 is always brought to you by Macy's Grocery Store. Get the freshest fruits and vegetables from local farms and your favorite local brands. Macy's. Happy shopping. Big thanks to our producer, Eric Cabrera. Big thanks to you, Alex Kirry, and appreciate all of you listening to the show and subscribe to the podcast. We'll talk to you next week here on First and 12.